welcome to my channel. My name is Brianne Beebe and I am a high school math teacher. I'm currently in my 6th year of teaching. Today I'm sharing my 5 favorite math practice activities. Teaching geometry can be tricky because it's a very dense mathematics. There's so much that I have to teach students that's brand new to them, so I have a lot of notes that I have to do. But ideally what I like to do is have a day of notes and guided practice and then follow that up with a day of independent practice. It doesn't always work out that way, and some units are better set up for that structure than others, but that's what I'm always aiming for. When my students are doing independent practice, sometimes a simple worksheet will suffice. Sometimes we need to mix it up a little bit, and these are some of the things that I might do that mix it up. So along the lines of a simple worksheet, what's great about the worksheet is that it is easy to put together for the most part. It really depends on the math that you're doing. Sometimes you have to research problems on your own, which can be really annoying. Sometimes, if you're teaching geometry especially, you might have to make up your own diagrams. But for the most part, it's pretty simple. One way to mix up a simple worksheet is to turn it into a matching activity. So what I like about a simple matching activity is that you can have your problems for students to work out, and then at the bottom, just include like an answer bank. Kind of like a word bank that you'd have on like a fill in the blank thing for ELA or social studies. But in your answer bank, you can have the answers to the questions. This allows students to self-check. This way you don't have students constantly seeking your attention to make sure that they got something right. They can see for themselves if it's correct. And now if they come up with an answer that's not in the answer bank, now they know that they need to call you over because there's a problem. So to recap, matching activities are great for activities where you want students seated and possibly working alone or with partners. They're also great for allowing students to self-check, and they're easy to create. I mean, you could find an existing worksheet somewhere or a set of problems and arrange it how you like and then put the little answer key somewhere. My next favorite type of activity is card sorts. Card sorts are great for categorization. Students are physically picking up some kind of piece of paper that we refer to as a card, and they're sorting it into one category or another. There's 2 basic ways that you could do this. One way is, if you want this activity prepped for years to come, is to print, laminate, and cut out the cards and have students physically sort them into whatever piles you're working with. If you're looking to assess students on how they sorted their cards, in that case, you need to make sure that you have each card numbered or lettered so you can have students write down what letters or numbers went into which category. The other way to do card sorts is as a cut and paste. This is one example that I used recently. I have triangles on this side that students have to cut apart, and on this side, they were categorizing them as angle, angle, side, 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 or side, angle, side. I like card sorts because they're pretty easy to make and they are very versatile. They could be used as a formative assessment. You could check your students' card sorts. They could be used as a self-assessment. You can give students time to work on it and then reveal answers to them. I haven't done this personally, but I've heard of teachers using them for pre-assessments. In the case of a pre-assessment, teachers have given students cards to sort, but no categories. So they're looking to see how are students sorting these cards on their own. The next type of math activity that I often use is mazes. I always like to joke with my students, I'm like, but this is amazing, whenever they give me pushback on it. But seriously, mazes are awesome because they're very easy to check. So here's an example of one maze. This one is by All Things Algebra. All of my mazes I get on Teachers Pay Teachers. Now this is probably something that someone could do on their own. Personally, I haven't because I just have not found the time. But students start wherever it says to start, and different creators put their mazes together a little bit differently. They solve the problem. From the problem, there are answers branching off of it. They follow their answer to the next problem, and so on until they get to the end. What I find with mazes is that students are more motivated to complete them because it's like a game to them. The downside to the mazes is that because you're getting them from different sellers, some of them work out a little bit differently. I've had mazes where when students get the wrong answer, they end up making a loop and they get really frustrated with that. But then I've also had mazes that were really well made, and after students got an incorrect answer, they were still able to get to the end if they had gotten everything else correct. So you were able to see where their mistakes were. My next favorite math activity is called a math lib. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe these are exclusively from All Things Algebra on Teachers Pay Teachers. Here's an example of what one card looks like. I believe that she usually has 10 questions total. Students complete the question. They have their answers down here. Next to their answer, they have a word. And then they'll also have an answer page where they're writing out the words in the story. Having students put the words in the story makes it really easy to check, because when you collect these from your students, if you're looking at their answers, all you're doing is reading through the story and making sure that they got it right. That also makes it easy for students to self-check if you were not collecting it from students but having them check their own work at the end. That works as well. And math libs basically work like stations. You print out each problem, it gets its own page, and then you get to leave it around your classroom and students have to get up and move around. Again, you're not going to please everybody. There are some students that really need to get up out of their seat and move around to do something. You're gonna have other students that really just wanna stay seated. And I have some kids that are like, can't we just have a worksheet? Math Libs is another activity that I really like, but personally, I'm going to be buying that off of Teachers Pay Teachers. I'm not going to put one together myself, just because I feel like that'd be really time consuming and it's not something that I'd enjoy putting together. My last favorite math activity is Scavenger Hunts. Scavenger Hunts can look like this. So basically you have a page with a problem, and in the corner or somewhere, there's a previous answer. So your scavenger hunt questions are actually going to form a loop. The great thing about scavenger hunts is that there is an abundance of them on Teachers Pay Teachers, but I also feel that they'd be pretty easy to make yourself. Not that I have made my own yet. What I have done though is purchase scavenger hunts from Teachers Pay Teachers and then cut some problems out and kind of doctor the previous answers so that it worked for me and my students and our 42-minute class periods. Scavenger hunts are great because students get to check their answers as they go, so they're getting that instant feedback. Also, if your students are like the group that I have this year and they like to be up and out of their seat, it's great for getting them up and moving. I believe the recommended way to conduct a scavenger hunt is to scramble your questions so that students have to hunt to find their answer. So they'd complete a problem, get an answer, and then look around the room to see if they can find their answer. If they find their answer, that's their next problem. If they don't find their answer, they'd have to go back to the problem where they were and try again. I conduct my scavenger hunts a little bit differently. I take them and I actually number them. So I emphasize you can start anywhere you want. It doesn't matter, you're gonna go through all the problems, but I number them so that they know where to go from which problem to the next. That way when they land on their next problem, they can check their previous answer. If they got it correct, great. If they got it wrong, they could ask me about it. And then they don't necessarily have to go back. They could continue through and maybe save questions for the end, although that really doesn't ever happen, does it? Also, just for me, while I don't mind my students up and moving, the chaos of students going all over the place would drive me insane. And then I know I'd have to be directing traffic, so I'd have students going, well, where is answer 68? Where is answer 74? And I wouldn't be able to function. I would lose my mind. So having it, I set it up so that mine goes in like a circle usually. So they're going around the room from one place to another and they know where to go from where they are. In my opinion, it's easier and it saves time because like I said before, I only have 42-minute periods. So those are my 5 favorite types of math practice activities. This video actually came about because of a viewer suggestion, so I'd like to encourage anyone that has any other types of videos that they want to see that they feel would be helpful to them, just let me know anytime in a comment, and if I'm able to make that video, I will totally do it for you. Because A, sometimes I run out of ideas, and B, I like to make videos that are helpful to people. In general, I do videos that I think would be helpful, but I mean, what if it's just me? As I was preparing for this video, I kind of had an idea for like a follow-up, which would be where to find resources for math teachers. So keep an eye out for that because it's coming soon. And as always, thank you for watching.